It's great to see such commitment and engagement from our female hoteliers. Their contribution to our industry are innumerable and highly valued. We begin today's dinner session with a conversation with an industry legend. His story is a testament to the opportunities for upward mobility that are so abundant in the hospitality industry. A career that began as a service assistant in a small resort town in Germany grew through positions at Hilton Hotels and the Hyatt Hotels Corporation. That service assistant went on to become one of the founding members of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company. Our next speaker, Horst Schulze, is seen as a visionary leader in hospitality. His teachings and concepts continue to reshape our industry. In fact, leaders across industry look to his very idea about the very core of what service and hospitality are as they seek to define it in their own fields. Over the course of his career, he's been recognized with numerous awards and honors and continues to help define the hotel industry. His approach to excellence in hospitality is best described in his own words. At age 16, while working his first job in hospitality, Horst wrote, "We are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen." This brand of anticipatory service from all staff members became the hallmark of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company. His recent book, Excellence Wins, a no-nonsense guide to becoming the best in a world of compromise, details his drive to create excellence over the course of his career. Joining him today is our own Mit Shah, founder and CEO of Noble Investment Group. Mit grew up in the industry. He started out by helping his father, Bart, by managing the vending machines at his independent motel. Working every job in the motel and learning the fundamentals of business helped him build Noble Investment Group. He reinvests his success into community through numerous philanthropic endeavors and paying it forward by mentoring the next generation of hoteliers. And like many AAHOA members, is a testament to the American dream. Please welcome Horst Schulze and Mit Shah.
Horst, it's so good to be with you, my friend. To frame this, the reason why I was so excited is 25 years ago, you met with a much younger man who had called you, and the request was you were the best operator and leader that is in our industry, and I have a goal of building the best operating hotel organization that's there. Can I come buy you a cup of coffee and sit with you? And you invited me over to your office, literally right next door to here. And you have been a friend and mentor ever since. So this is great to sit here with you today. I think that this audience is going to want to hear a couple of things. One, you're more than just an industry icon who has built businesses across the world. And has done so with such grace. You are also, on your resume, have been a proud owner of a Homewood Suites, a 150-room property, which, if I do recollect, for both you and I as partners, which is how this friendship evolved, is one of the best investments we ever made together. So I think that's very relative to this group that will be watching us, have this conversation today.
It's not only one of the best, it's the best.
It's the best, right? It's the best, and I think your vision and creativity and your operating ethos was a big part of that, which I want to get to that in just a moment because you understand those numbers very well. Then I want to talk about the time period that we're in right now, which is clearly the most difficult by far any of us could have ever imagined in our lifetime, and hear from you how you think of things not only through your lens as a leader and a business builder and someone who truly understands all kinds of businesses, but also someone that has also owned an asset class that is very tangent to all of us. So let's get back to the first part of this and talk a little bit about some of the messages that you gave me early on in my career, 25 years ago as we were building Noble. And I want you to expand on a couple of things that I remember very clearly you said to me. You said, Mitt, as you build your organization, I want you to always keep in mind there is a big difference between going and hiring people and bringing leaders into your organization. Can you talk a little bit about how you see the difference between building a team full of people and just the entire quadrant around leadership.
But the whole issue about leadership, so much is talked about it, and it seems to me never really explained. What is leadership? And of course, I said you can do it with managers, short term, because managers control and organize and are successful short term. If you have a long-term vision, you need a leader. What's the difference? If you think about on the left over here, there are a lot of people. These are your guests, your customers, and potential customers. This is the market that you will serve. Over here, also a lot of people. Those are your employees. I, as a leader, have to know, or as a manager, what do they expect from my product, from me? And I have to now make sure that the people over here understand that, and so they can deliver what they expect. A manager now creates processes, systems, controls to make sure it happens. A leader creates an environment where they want to do it. There's a difference. That's the difference.
Big difference.
And want to do it, that means you're aligning, and everybody talks about alignment now, and ask somebody what it means, there's nothing. Alignment means they're aligned, they understand the organization, they feel part of the organization. The leader makes sure that they had purpose. So the leader is given purpose. Here's why we do it. Here why what we want to do is good for you. So they are aligned, and they're aligned to the expectation of the customer. And that's kind of what we discussed at the time. And saying, my goodness, be sure you have leaders that align the employees, because unquestionably, nobody can argue that an employee who wants to do the job will do a better job than the one that has to. With the manager, they have to, and they will. Many good managers achieve a lot, but it is a forced issue for a limited time.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we connected early on, you started as a busboy. Way back at the very beginning of your career.
Sure.
I, like many others in our industry, family business, and I was 10 years old and was cleaning the pool and cleaning rooms and doing the front desk, and so we found our way very early in our careers and our lives, and in jobs that were very important, but understanding the importance of that job to the whole.
Yeah.
And I think, as we sit here today, because I want to pivot this conversation to talk about the crisis that we're in right now. You've been through, in your career, a leader through so many different kinds of crises, and again, this one, and thinking about it through the lens of a small property owner, and the like. But can you talk a little bit about the makeup of kind of where you came from, how it led you to having the ability to think about leadership in the way that you have, and now translate that from a learning lesson into today, and some real lessons that you can impart?
Yeah, I started when I was 14 and as a busboy in the best hotel in the region. Unfortunately, it was 100 kilometers away from my home. So I lived in a dorm room in the hotel. The reason that my parents found that job, because it was the best hotel in the region. When I started, the maitre d' talked to us, that 2 other kids who started, and said, now tomorrow I want you to be here at 7 o'clock. But he said the first day, but do not come to work here. Come here to create excellence. Now I went over my head. Excellence, washing dishes, cleaning floors, cleaning ashtrays. That was the most we are allowed to do with guests. Together, what's excellent about it? But he maintained that, and he presented himself as a human being of excellence, truly. Going to hotel school once a week, typical German upbringing.
Right.
After 2 years, the teacher asked us, write an essay, what you now think about our business. Back to work that night, I see the maitre d' going to a table. Now, we have been told, non-stop, the guests here are very important, ladies and gentlemen, and we are servants. In fact, when my parents told me that first, said, now, we could never go to a hotel like that. Right. This is for important ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. But I saw him approach a table, and I realized the guests on that table were proud that he came to them. Now, wait a minute, that's a reversal.
Yeah.
That night I thought about my essay, what I to write. And I wrote about him. And I named that essay, "We are ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen." Because I could see he defined himself as a gentleman by his excellence. That's why the people were proud that he came to them. So for the first time in my life, I realized I can define myself. And whatever we do in this business, we can be ladies and gentlemen if we deserve it. Or we define ourselves as servants and as nothings. Or we define ourselves as ladies and gentlemen. Of course, everybody knows I made that the motto of Ritz-Carlton. We're ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen. That piece has never ended. If we and how do we? What is service to the guest? Well, it's caring for them. And people ask, what will change? What has changed? A lot, but not the fact that people want that you care for them. It hasn't changed. It will never change. That's the piece that is called service. That's the industry is in. That's what we create, and we'll keep on creating. Now, of course, it is also true still today. But of course, today we face total different circumstances. I have to say, I have to admit it, I thank God that I sold my company, Capella, just over a year ago, before this started. Right. As if I was smart enough to get, just like the deal we had before, as if I was smart enough to get out of it before this situation happened. But I think a lot of all of you, my heart, I'm a hotelier, I'm a waiter by heart, I'm a hotelier by heart, right. I'm a restaurateur by heart. That will always be here, and I think about you all the time. What would I do? How would I handle that? I think about it all the time.
Yeah. So let's frame this a little bit. Let's talk about this, the current environment. Let me maybe give you a sense of, because as you know, we sat together in property review meetings, on an ongoing basis, which was one of the big thrills early in my career. But a 150-room hotel, not big restaurants and meeting space, etc. But you have 25, 30, members of your team that's in a hotel.
Yeah.
When occupancy drops dramatically, as it did, starting towards the end of March into April into May, immediate action was taken. In many cases, 20% of the hotels in the United States had closed. But in many cases, a lot of these select service hotels and extended stay hotels went to a very modified operating structure. 2 people per shift, that were working at the property. One was at the front desk. One was, making sure that whether cleaning rooms or doing other things, and keeping as many people on staff. The PPP loans helped. Forbearance helped. Lenders were good. But that, again, that we're now 4 months, into, this crisis. And seemingly, it's not getting better. It's remaining in much a difficult state. So the question is, when can you bring on people? How do you survive? How do you gain more forbearance in terms of being able to build a lifeline for something nobody caused? And so you have a lot of owners that are out there that are dealing with the magnitude of these issues, and in a very difficult way. At the end of July, when we're having this conversation, and people will soon be watching here at the beginning of August, the feeling that we should have been in a better place. Because when you're at the end of March and you're saying, hey, by the time we get to the summer, things should start trending better.
I would have bet on it.
Break-even occupancy in our space. It's basically 25% occupancy at $100 to break even at the gross operating profit line. And it's between 50 and 60%, depending on how much leverage that you have, at $100 to break even after debt service. Yeah. And you look at it and you say, well, here are properties that have $100 RevPAR, that do that, quite easily, on an ongoing basis. So a 150-room, select service hotel made $100,000 of free cash flow per month last year. Well, this year, it's been losing $100,000 a month since the pandemic. So there's a part of this that is immediate. You care about your people. You care about the identity that you have as a company, as human beings, the culture that's been created by so many, going back to the difference between leaders. But now you're in a tenuous state whereby you don't have any control over when this business is going to come back to where you can just be break even. So think about the times that you've been through across multiple different asset classes and the like.
Yeah.
And how would you characterize your own thinking, right? Because I want to get back to excellence in just a moment, and I think we close on that because you've always been a part of that. And I know that a lot of your teachings and your writings have been about that. So I want to get to that in a moment. But talk about this current situation and the difficult decisions people need to make and how you think about that.
Wow. Well, you have many difficult decisions, but I can give you only a synopsis of my thinking. And in fact, I'm close to the owners of former Ritz-Carlton in Bali and Capellas. And so when this started, in February, I called him and his general managers. He connected his general managers. Here is no running them 4 hotels. And I told them, here's what you have to think now. This is very unusual circumstances, very unusual. And you have to think different. First of all, you're leaders. You have a vision. A great leader has a vision. I give you an example. When I started Capella, I said, okay, we're going to create the world's greatest service organization. When we started Ritz-Carlton, I said, we're going to create the finest hotel company in the world. That's a vision. That's a purpose. That's a purpose. And I hired people to join me for that purpose, not even to work for me. And that's kind of a leadership thing that I believe in. So I called them and I said, now that you're in that situation, your vision cannot change. Whatever your vision was, a leader does not give up on their vision. The other thing a leader doesn't give up on is on your values. On your values. But the priorities change. And you have to be sincere about the circumstance, and with that sincerity, change your priorities. Before, the priorities was clear to me. There were 4 priorities. Do the absolute best for the investors, for the guest, for the employee, and society. The absolute best for all 4. That priority has changed. Right now, the priority is the hotel, the company must survive. Because without that, none of the other 3 have anything. That's the priority. So, number 2 priority. How do I keep connected to my customers and supply systems, travel agent, whatever, and let them know that I care for them. In fact, they should know once we get through this, they should know, they should think more highly of me than before. What can I do about that? Communicate and so on. Number 3, make sure you don't lose your very best employees. Number 4, get rid of the rest of them. Sorry, because guys, if you don't do it, you won't have a hotel. You have nothing for anybody. And your number 1 obligation, you accepted, the leaders, the managers, and of course the owners will understand that automatically, but the managers accepted their fiduciary responsibility to make the company successful. And in situations like that, to make sure it survives. Yeah. You cannot escape that, how tough this is. You get rid, first of all, the worst ones, and then the rest, but make sure you keep the good ones. So you have the ribcage of starting new when you get out of that, with excellence. Sorry, this is painful. Believe me, it is painful. Believe me, I cried letting people go. Don't think I'm cold. But people said I was tough. I was tough because I was fair. Yes. And I have sat on my bed at 3 o'clock in the night and cried when I let people go. But sometimes that's necessary. And I tell you guys, you have to do it.
Yeah. How do you define excellence in this scenario? Because you wrote an incredible teaching here, and I call it a teaching because it was about life. It wasn't, and you have many different experiences, and it was excellence wins, and it's always how your mindsets work. But talk about that in the construct of, how you thought about excellence throughout your career, And then, how should we be thinking about excellence as we're in this moment in time?
Yeah, it's very interesting because not long ago I had a discussion with a few CEOs, and I realized none of them really defined excellence. They talked about excellence. They were talking about my book, Excellent Wins, but I realized they didn't define it. Now, we have to understand that excellence is hardly ever luck. Excellence is basically always the decision for high intent. What is your high intent with your hotel, with your department? For me, my high intent was with Capella Creative Finance Service Organization in the world. Once you have developed that high intent, you have developed a purpose, which you want to give your people. Because we know since Aristotle that people, to be happy over nearly 3,000 years, to be fulfilled in life, you need purpose and belonging. In fact, the Bible says people will perish without purpose. So you give them purpose, and that is your vision, your high intent. So it's no coincidence. High intent and hard work gets you there. Now, but what is excellence itself? Excellence itself is in a thing that you create. If it is a radio, if it works very well, a car that runs very well, or a knife that cuts very well. That's excellence in a human being is to do the job that you do to the best of your ability, not perfect, to the best of your ability. But number two, as a human being, you do relationship to the best of your ability. Number three, you do morality to the best of your ability. And maybe for some of us, number four, for some of us, to do the best of our ability spiritually. If you put that together, you have a human being of excellence. And you have to commit yourself. That's excellence in a human being. And an excellence in a thing is, in your hotel, if it works great for the people that you serve. That's the thing. But the human being, and talking about relationship excellence, well, that relates right away to service. How do you say hello to your customers? How do you deal with your customers? How much do you care for them? That's the relationship for your guests and so on. What about your employees? Relationship excellence and so on. So that together creates a human being with excellence. And in us, a leader particularly, even though it's only on paper, I have to question myself. How am I doing in those areas? How do I make sure I manage those leadership things properly? So that's excellence for me. And of course, I wrote this book. It was designed so that young people would read it too and not put it away right away. That's why I wrote stories around excellence and how they were accomplished and so on. And frankly, I thought, I hope CEOs read it and have a little bit of a bad conscience how they really lead. And I was very successful with it. I mean, if I tell you, one CEO called me and said, I read it, I felt bad, but here's what I did. I bought 5,000 and gave one to each of my employees.
Wonderful. And
so on. So and because of this heavy sales and number of companies, it is very successful.
Yeah. It truly defines who you are, and in terms of a leader and caring so deeply about this next generation. I do think about when you and I met. I was, again, as we talked about, a much younger man at the start of my career.
It's a long time. It's 25 years ago.
25 years. And you happen to be the same age as my father, and you have been a friend and a mentor to me, and I'm so deeply grateful for that.
Thank you.
These words and this inspiration to those that are in my generation and those that are in the next generation will be very, very impactful. I think on behalf of also the industry, you have been such an incredible stalwart to how people have thought about our industry as both a great place in which to invest in real estate dollars, but at its very core, an operating business. And without both of those together, it doesn't really work. You helped teach me that, and for that I'll be forever grateful. And I know that our audience today will be very appreciative of your thoughts and perspectives, especially at this time that we're in.
I tell you, Mitt, sincerely, my prayers are with the industry right now. I'm very sincerely. I mean, my heart is hurting when I think what you got through. And you know, we talked about it. You and I ventured together. Let's be very honest with everybody. We were 100% leveraged. And today there are many hotels that are 100% leveraged.
Right.
How do they pay the bank? How do they do now? How do they suffer? Suddenly you were hit without fault of yourself. If they go down because they did a lousy job, I don't feel sorry for them. But nobody had control over it. They get hit right now. All the people, and that's the investors. What about the bus boys and everybody out of a job? Sooner or later, this country runs out of just paying.
Right.
I mean, it is remarkable what was done so far. But my heart goes out for everybody in this industry, the people and everybody in this industry, this beautiful industry that is designed to give well-being to people. It's all of a sudden you're all hurting and so on. My heart goes out to everybody, really.
Yeah. You know, and I think here's what we know. We know that there will be a therapeutic and a vaccine.
Sure.
We know that it is in our blood to get out and to see people, right?
Sure.
To be with one another, to travel, to experience things. And that too will happen. And to get from here where we're at to the other phase, I think your comments are well put. The number one thing we have to think about is, what is it going to take to survive between this
number
time
one thing.
and that point in time?
That's the number one thing you have to think about.
Right. And then, who are the leaders that you ensure that you keep, right?
Exactly.
That are beside you? Who are those people that are close to you? Your lenders, your partners, etc. And keep them close to you and communicate and build this bridge to the other side. And those that do not have value in the way that others might have. Unfortunately, those are some of the decisions that become hard, and
they're painful,
and they're very painful. But I've learned this. I think going through these crises, each one worse than the one before. I still remember, you and I were talking. The Russian ruble collapses in '98, and we're like, well, what the heck does that have to do with us here, right? But the entire capital market shut down.
That's right.
And then the dot-com bust of 2000, right? Followed by the tragedy of 9/11, and then the Great Financial Crisis. Well, this has the effect that the Great Financial Crisis was 2.5 times the impact of 9/11, and this is going to be 2.5 times the impact of
at least.
But in every single scenario, we found a way to come out of it stronger than before. Because of the message that you sent. And very early in my career, this was very valuable. Surround yourself with great people. Great people in your organization, great partners that you have relative to the people that you do business with. Be transparent, be honest, be strategic and decisive, and make those decisions that are in the best interest of the ones that matter the most. And I think your comments today are very, very important and still hold true.
Thank you. Mr. Be clear. We as leaders are responsible to make people successful, to help them, to create them. That's the beauty, that's one of the honors that we have as leaders. But as you said, we have to be realistic now. Right now, the priority is the company, the hotel, the department must survive.
Yep. Horst, it's always good to see you.
Good to be with you, my friend.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, you're the best.
Good.